It's 39 years.
You all have them some.
And when you start 39 years, though, you didn't know.
I'm in the wrong seat, you know that?
No, you're in the right seat.
You're in the right seat. No, you're in the right seat. Yeah, you're right.
Something.
Oh, I understand that. Yeah, it's right here, pinned down.
Yes. Oh, it's gonna roll.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna,
No, you're in the right seat.
they know I like her. The best thing is she tell me to work on the weekend.
Board members, please be reminded you have to turn your mics on. So if you want to go ahead and do a quick test and make sure your mics are working. If you're up top, you would need to press the button in and make sure your mic is working. If you're down here, you're gonna turn it.
Okay, thanks. Hello, hello.
There you go. All right, so just make sure you press the
Hello.
Young mom.
I'm looking for
No, you need one?
Hey, how's that going?
Hey, how are you today?
Yes, ma'am. We're just waiting on Miss Brown. Get back, we're gonna start. She just went to get something. She went to get paper copy for me. Oh, that's coming. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Board meeting on Tuesday, January the 19th. Call to order. Ms. Brown, as news media, everyone been notified,
Yes, sir.
and we see we have attendance, our 7 board members. So I'm gonna ask for a motion to go into executive session. What's that? Yes, the point. That's what I'm saying. We do have a point, which is 7.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we go in executive session, it's contraction matter.
Just HR.
Okay,
Chair, I second.
Motion made by Ms. Harrison, second by Reverend Jackson. All in favor, raise your hand. We have 7, Ms. Brown. Now, we go into executive session. Only, HR, man. That's all.
I'm thinking,
You might be.
I'm like, y'all got no police. What the police say? You know, we all on the line.
Yeah, the police.
Here you go. I ain't put my shoes back on when we had to come out.
It's a different kind of boy.
Isn't it beautiful?
Not your name on the chair. Oh, you must be sitting.
You put me under the camera, I don't like being under
The name. I'm like, I'm get in the door, I'm going. You got it. Now I'm gonna lock us down. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, police, I see the police car. I'm like, who ain't gonna do this now? We got no babies. Everybody on the phone, say, who's doing this? I'm at lunch. You have a best friend. Y'all must be got things on the phone. So, as I was saying, when you quarantine people in your children, there's a pain. It has sound. He said you need to come out to eat. So when they come out, they take the station. And you can get the little thing and turn it on. You go down there, turn it on. You can't do it. He just said, it's the first thing, the first one, cut that sound and off now.
And when you go back there, get it done. And some aluminum foil.
I thought you were going to get the pen, take it. I mean,
So they don't.
and guess what? He been dancing, he did the chicken. They got peppers and stuff on. It looks so good. So, yeah. So, you gonna do it? Keep it in?
I got a report tonight.
I got burned with, and it's the first one. As long as the cap is right there, there's the cap.
First one through.
That's right.
You gotta turn the corner, it's long.
Oh, it's when you walk in, you go to the right.
I can't go, I can't go.
Get that thing burned out.
All these people you giving me, Lord.
You know, that's a lot of hours of my life.
Or you up here sneaking up to the office at 10 o'clock, so you could be gone by 2. And that never works. And then you say, it's my office, let me get a little piece of that, just to wet my whistle. Little, oh, I think it's a little nibble, the whole week, the whole week.
I'm talking about. Total.
Anybody today? Well, no, I pick up. She did call, I was on the phone, and I didn't pick up. She was even there.
Okay. All right. We have a motion to come out of executive session.
So move.
We have a second?
I second.
Then second, all in favor of coming out of executive session, raise your hand. It has it, 7-0. Right. All right. I don't know, my glasses. I'd just like to thank you. Welcome everyone, TV audience out there, and to our January 19th morning. I think that's 19th, isn't it? Second. We will now have our Madam Secretary.
Pledge of allegiance.
Yeah.
Stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Again, let's welcome everyone to our January 19th board meeting. At this time, we're going to visit into presentation to, excuse me, I'm sorry. We want to approve the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, I second.
Second. Motion been made by Ms. Harris, second by Reverend Jackson. All in favor, raise your hand. 7-0. Thank you. All right. We're gonna get somebody. Next, we'll have a presentation by Dr. Green.
Yeah. Chairman Miller, members of the board, it is our pleasure to recognize all of our outstanding board members in School Board Appreciation Month. You know, normally what happens is we have all of our principals that come and present items to each and every board member. We had a few principals who were ill with all that is going on right now. That were not able to be here, but they did take the time out to go ahead and prepare these very nice gift baskets to show their appreciation. I understand the difficulty of serving as a school board member. Very often it is a thankless position, and you only hear from people when something is wrong. But we appreciate your commitment and your service to the Fairfield County community. Ms. Brown, was there anything else you needed to share?
No, it just was, letting you know which schools.
And so I'll go with that, Ms. Brown. Thank you, there. And so, Ms. Harrison, is often the case, your school, Giga Elementary School, presented you with a token of their appreciation. Mr. Miller, McCoy Liston School of Technology, presented you with their token of appreciation. Pastor Jackson, Fairfield Middle School, presented you with their token of appreciation. Mr. Siebel's, Kelly Miller Elementary School, presented you with their token of appreciation. Mr. Davis, Fairfield Magnet School for Math and Science, presented you with their token of appreciation. And Ms. Green, you have a few schools presenting you with a token. Fairfield Elementary, Fairfield Central.
No, just the elementary.
Oh, wow, that was Dr. Harrison. Yeah, it was Green Fairfield Elementary School. And then finally, Dr. Harrison, you have multiple schools, Dr. Harrison, presenting you Fairfield Central High School, Fairfield Career Technology Center, and Going Knowledge Academy. So everyone out there in virtual land, please join me in recognizing the school board members for School Board Appreciation.
All of you signed the document up from South Carolina School Boards Association saying that you're a united board. Usually we sign that, take time to sign that in the picture, but in light of COVID, we just ask you all to sign it at the conclusion of the meeting.
As Ms. Brown said, please don't leave without signing. Okay. Now, we were gonna have our motion for our board meeting minutes on December the 15th. Are you motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we recommend the board approve the minutes from the December 15 regular call board meeting.
Second for the motion. Motion has been made by Ms. Harris, second by Dr. Harris. All in favor? Voting. That has 7. We're gonna move right down to our superintendent report. Dr. Green again.
Mr. Miller, members of the board, first of all, let me remind you that you have an opportunity to submit up to 2 individuals to serve on the 5-year district strategic planning team. These individuals will be expected to meet collaboratively with other stakeholders to provide valuable input and insight regarding our journey toward moving from ordinary to extraordinary. Please submit your nominations using the enclosed form that Ms. Brown, I think, has submitted to each one of you. You can nominate yourselves to participate if you would so desire. I know we've had at least one board member who submitted her names already. Ms. Harrison has already submitted her name. So for those of you who've not submitted yours, please get that in as soon as possible. Also, let me thank the faculty and staff for doing an absolutely remarkable job of navigating this very, very difficult COVID crisis. Our staff has just been as committed and dedicated as any faculty and staff anywhere in the world. And we are extremely appreciative. We understand that it is difficult trying to navigate teaching in a virtual environment at the same time you're teaching kids in person. We understand the challenges of always trying to adhere to all the safety protocols as we are concerned about the potential transmission of the virus. But our faculty and staff has done a tremendous job, and let me say publicly, we can't thank you enough for that. Also, I want to give a shout out to students and parents as well, who have been extremely patient with us as we have navigated this COVID-19 crisis. I had a video message that went out during the Christmas break where I implored parents to get kids tested before they return from the Christmas holiday. And I can tell you that a large percentage of them followed through with that, just to ensure that we did not put fellow students or staff in harm's way. They have been doing an excellent job of ensuring that we create an environment that is as safe as possible. And so I'd like to thank students and parents for that as well. We're about 95%, Mr. Miller. Okay, about 95% of them have been following through. And if they have been sick, they've not been reported, they've been going to get tested. If they know they're in the household with a positive case, they've notified us. We've got about 5% to go. All right, and so we're gonna keep working till we get to 100%, but we are very thankful for that. And the other thing I want to do is spend some time giving us a COVID update. I know there are lots of questions and some concerns about operating in this era of a pandemic. And so if you turn your attention to the screen, we have a PowerPoint presentation that I want to share with you here today. That really looks at how we've been able to navigate during this pandemic. And it looks at, number of COVID cases. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the percentage of cases that are virtual versus in person, staff cases versus student cases, looking at individual sites as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first slide. And we did this prior to the Christmas break. So that was as of December 21st, the total number of cases for each school for the entire year. All right. I also want to recognize, just because these cases are noted at those respective schools, doesn't necessarily mean the transmission had anything to do with schools. That just means that this is a staff member who is employed at that respective school. And as you see here, we even identified the number of cases by month. And so, pardon me, by weeks. And so looking at from the first week of leap week from August 17th through the 21st, you saw we had one case, and the next week we had no cases. And you go all the way down to the week prior to us leaving, you saw we had 2 cases on that week. But that gives you a snapshot of how many cases we've been seeing over the course of the semester, and then how many cases individual schools have been experiencing. And so these are the total number of cases reported, student cases for each and every site in Fairfield County. You note that we have an asterisk indicating that there are some virtual students in that count. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how extensive the virtual infection is becoming. And I think it's going to surprise some people. But we are required to report all student cases, whether these are students who are reporting for in-person instruction or whether these are students who are virtual students. And I'll take questions, whatever you have some, but we'll move on to the slide. But stop me at any point if you need to. Next slide, Ms. Brown. So these were the total number of staff cases during the course of the year. And as you see, we have it broken down by week, the same way we did with student cases. We have it broken down by site, the same way we do with student cases, to include maintenance, transportation, and other departments as well. We also want to give this disclaimer, even though these individuals have to be listed because they work in the Fairfield County School District, does not necessarily suggest that they came into contact with the virus in our system, but we are still required to list them nonetheless. Now, each of you have this graphic in your board docket, and so I apologize that it is not large enough for you to really read very well. Next slide, Ms. Brown. Okay, total reported cases as of January the 4th, total staff cases on the week of January the 4th. And this is important to note here, because these were cases that primarily were a function of students and staff testing during the Christmas break, all right? And so they were reported the week of January 4th. Now, if you remember, staff didn't return until January the 6th. Students didn't return until January the 7th. And so these cases, almost exclusively, students and staff ended up testing during the time they were on break, and then it was reported that they were positive. Now, something that probably jumps out at you when you look at student cases here, we have 2, 4, 5 5 of the, I think is 9 cases of student cases, 5 of the 9 cases, even though they ended up testing during the Christmas break, 5 of the 9 are virtual students. So they don't even report for in-person instruction at all. And I'm so appreciative of parents and students because almost all of these individuals did not report back to school after Christmas. So they recognized that they had tested, they were positive, so they began their quarantine period and didn't come back to school where we ended up potentially exposing other students. So we're very appreciative of that. Also, you see we had several staff cases during the Christmas break. And really, we saw more transmission of the virus among students and staff of Fairfield County during the Christmas break than at any other time during the school year. Now, I'll let you think about what that means there, okay? But when students weren't in school and staff weren't here, we saw more transmission than in any other time during the school year. All right, next slide, Ms. Brown. So this is just a little bit more information in terms of those cases that were reported during the Christmas break when they were reported to DHEC. And as you see, January 4th, no cases were reported. January 5th, we had 6 student cases reported, 2 students and 4 staff. January 6th, we had 1 case reported, which was 1 staff. And on the 7th, we had 10 cases reported, which was 6 students and 6 staff. Remember, students didn't come back until the 7th. Staff came back on the 6th. So these individuals had tested prior to their expected return, and they notified us that they were positive, so they did not return. And then on January 8th, we had 1 case, which was a student. Next slide, Brown. And these are the numbers. So this is our first full week after the Christmas break. And so remember, we came back on the 7th, that was on a Thursday. We were there Thursday and Friday. I was there for a short week. January 11th through the 15th was our first week. And I wanted to look at how many reported COVID-19 cases we had after our first week. First thing that jumps out at you, we had 10 student cases the first week we returned back from Christmas break. Of the 10 student cases, 7 of them were virtual students. Okay, only 3 of them were face-to-face students. Let me say that one more time. Out of the 10 student cases we had after the first week from Christmas, 7 of them do not even report to campus. Okay, they are virtual students, and 3 of them were face-to-face students. Now that is shocking, because I think a lot of parents have the perception that, well, I don't want to send my kids to school because they potentially may be exposed to the virus, and I respect that opinion. That is very valid. The evidence suggests that we are seeing more transmission of kids who aren't reporting to school than we are with kids who are reporting to school. And we have a conversation about why we think that may be occurring. And then finally, we have 1 staff case the week that we returned back from Christmas break. And so district total cumulative cases of students and staff, students 59 and staff 43. But always keep this in context. 19 of those cases from 50 that represent that 59 occurred during the Christmas break. There are several of those cases that occurred with virtual students. So even though we've been watching that very closely, we still have to continue to keep that in context in terms of what those numbers actually represent. Any questions about the presentation? And I have a few more things I'm going to discuss with you. Yes.
I too want to thank the teachers and the parents and the students for a job well done. But if you have a case saying that they didn't know they had it, they was at school, but they had to go home. So what do we do when they do that? They go in and spray the class down, they wipe everything down, and they contact the other student parents that was in the class? I mean, how is that procedure done?
Yeah, that's a good question, Sarah. So what happens is if a student is reports to school, just like a staff member reports to school, then we have to do what we call contact tracing to determine who it appears that person came into close contact with. And as you remember, DHEC defines close contact is within 6 feet for a total of 15 minutes. And so we go through and we look at who this kid potentially came into close contact with, and then we notify those individuals, in addition to some additional cleaning, which we do all day long anyway. Part of the reason that is so important that we have kids socially distanced while they are in class is that it minimizes the number of potential close contacts. All right. If you have, lots of students in a class together, then obviously you're gonna have more people who are coming in close contact during the course of the day. So we try our best to minimize the number of students who are in close contact, but that is really what we do. We begin to do contact tracing, and obviously that's contingent on the parents and on us talking to students about where you went, who you were around, or staff members about who you were around, because it's not just necessarily people you were in class with. We want to know who you eat lunch with, who you're in recess with, who were you in the teacher lounge with. I mean, so we want to look at everyone that you may have come in close contact with, and then notify those individuals that they potentially were in close contact.
One more question, Mr. Chair. I lost my train of thought there. Oh, the new virus, the new strain of virus that's coming out. Are we monitoring it? I mean, how are we planning on, doing with that new strain of virus they say is coming out as far as school is concerned? Are that something that you're monitoring to see how school would be going? I don't even know how long this new virus is gonna last. I'm just concerned about it because we got one that we haven't cleared up yet, and then we got another one on top. And then I just read an article that people that actually can get the shot may not be getting it for months. Like they're 70-something and older, they're saying their appointment is not until March. I mean, to me, that's crazy. And then people like us, well, if they can't get theirs to March, then when are we going to be able to get our shot? So I'm just concerned about that new virus that's on top of the one we already have.
Yeah, so that's a very good question as well, Ms. Sarah. So this new strand, I continue to read and evaluate whether it has made its way to South Carolina. At least the research says there's been no documented cases in South Carolina as of yet. Now, several states have seen documented cases, but the DHEC, no one else has informed us that there's been a documented case here. The big thing with the new strand, as you are aware, is that it transmits much easier, much more aggressively than the original COVID-19 virus. And we'll continue to monitor that, as you said earlier. One of the things that we look at, in addition to how many positive cases exist, is whether we see any transmission within our facility. I mean, that's one of the big things we look at, just as much as rather there's a positive, rather we are seeing positive transmission in our facility, on buses, in classrooms, in cafeterias, so on and so on. And the way we make those determinations with a reasonable degree of accuracy is through contact tracing. Additional questions?
I'd like to make a statement. I'm very appreciative of you doing your charts and transparency with the COVID information. Is it possible for you to continue, or are you going to continue updating as you have with this?
Yeah, if that's what's out of board, I mean, I can do it in a board meeting if you like, to give you an update of just the way we are. Yeah.
I do appreciate you showing us the weekly progression of the virus within the school and for the parents to see during this meeting. And I just think that it's beneficial for everybody to just understand that our nurses are on top of it and that they do submit information to you to let us know how the cases are going.
Yeah, so Ms. Green, actually what happens is our lead nurse meets with the HR director every day, and review all of the new COVID data. The HR director meets with me every day to update me on where we are. And so we are constantly on top of this ever-changing environment because it impacts what our potential educational decisions are. And so we are gonna be caught flat-footed where there is a surge and we don't know about it for 3, 4, 5 days, and we don't know day to day, every single day what occurs. And so, for example, I've already met with Ms. Saul, and she's been able to update me on any new situation that we've had arise, and our contact tracing when there were also onset of symptoms. And so I would be happy to update the board whenever we meet on a monthly basis as to what that data is.
Mike,
Could you tell us where our teachers in Fairfield are regarding the receiving the vaccine?
Yeah, so you probably read where State Superintendent of Education made a plea to the governor and DHEC to move teachers at the top of the list for category 1B. And so right now, we're still vaccinating people in 1A, as Ms. Harrison alluded to, who are individuals 75 years or older, medical professionals, so on and so on. Group 1B is frontline workers, that includes teachers and some other groups. And Superintendent of Education Spearman asked that teachers be moved to the top of that list in 1B. At this point in time, that request has not been granted. All right. So teachers have not been moved to the top of that list. Superintendent Spearman said she is continuing to push for that. So the only people in the school system who would have already been vaccinated are school nurses or speech pathologists or I may be missing one other. I'm missing one other group off the top of my head. But there are some school personnel who are in 1A who are treated the same way as medical professionals. So we do have school nurses who have been vaccinated. We do have speech pathologists who have been vaccinated. So we do have some individuals in the school who have been vaccinated, but not the population at large. Now, school bus drivers are not in that list. So school bus drivers are viewed at this time just as teachers, instructional aid, cafeteria workers, and they're in 1B, they aren't in 1A. And it is important to note that each individual state makes that determination. There's not federal guidance in that regard. And so what South Carolina does isn't necessarily saying what Florida does, or what Colorado does, what New York does. But so Superintendent Spearman is pushing, and I agree wholeheartedly. I had the same conversation with a member of the General Assembly who said, if you all are as committed as you say you are to creating a safe environment for students and staff, then why don't you move teachers to the top of the list on in terms of 1B so they can get vaccinated immediately? But that has not happened as of yet. Okay, any other questions? So as I kind of close, I had a fireside chat with the staff last Wednesday, I think it was, and I gave them an opportunity to ask me any questions about how we're operating, how we should respond to COVID-19. Should we go virtual? Are we going to maintain this modified virtual environment? And I had some very good questions. And so let me share with you some of the primary things I consider as I talk about making a recommendation to the board for change. All right. And the first thing is, as I said during the meeting, obviously health and safety concerns are number one that we look at. Can we create an environment where students and staff are safe? And as we evaluate COVID-19 numbers, as we do contact tracing, are we seeing that there is transmission in our facility? And the minute we start to look and see that there is substantial transmission in our facility, that is something that would trigger me to come back to you and say, I think we need to make a change. The other thing that we have to consider is, can we effectively educate all the young people that we serve in a virtual environment? The unfortunate reality is the answer to that question is no. Okay? And so there is a balance between looking at what your educational protocols are and the ability to educate all the students that you serve. And even if we come to a point that the transmission is too significant for us to maintain this modified virtual environment, we understand the difficulty that some students will have working in a virtual environment. And so that is the unfortunate reality that we are facing. As I said on that call, we have some students in this county who cannot get consistent access to the internet, even with a Wi-Fi device, because of where they live. So you give them a Wi-Fi device, but they still aren't going to be able to consistently access the internet because they don't have consistent cell service in their area. Okay, we have some students who do not have the educational structure at home to be successful. Virtual just simply is not going to work for them because they don't have the support at home to do well. We understand the reality that there are some parents who have to pay the bills and earn a living and would love to be able to stay home with children if we went totally virtual, but they do not have the capacity to do so. So, this is a very multifaceted issue that we're looking at. And I try and bring a recommendation to the board that I think is a prudent one that best serves the needs of the young people, still recognizing the health and safety of students, faculty, and staff as well. And so we will continue to try and balance that. If there are things that develop that cause us to really evaluate our procedures, then I would be happy to come back to the board with a recommendation for some change, and then we can continue to have that dialogue. In the interim, I like to remind every member of the board that if you think that we need to reevaluate things, then that's a conversation I think we should have. Because I don't profess that I have all the right answers relative to what I need to recommend to you, because this is a very difficult situation that regardless of what you decide, there will be some people who question the wisdom of that decision. Okay.
Just have, I guess, things that we need to continue with. Okay, we talked about updating the board on this COVID, but at the same time, your fire check, we need to inform the community. All the meetings we just, it takes, as they say, a village. Once we get so much community involvement, then they know what's going on. They may be asking some board members, but at the same time, when you go out virtual and you talk about these things, to update them and make sure that the message is getting out, and the numbers. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, and if I can follow up with that, Mr. Miller, obviously the fireside chat was for faculty and staff. We'll continue to do virtual town hall meetings through Facebook for students and parents and the community to really answer whatever questions they may have. I think we've already had one this year. We will probably have another one coming up very, very soon. But you're right. It's very important that this is a collaborative effort because it's just as important that parents are aware of what the protocols are and are being responsible relative to that protocol if we are to maintain a safe environment. Because if any part of this breaks down, our ability to keep a safe environment breaks down. Okay? So that's why it's very important that if you know your son or daughter is sick, that you don't send them to school. It's very important that if you know that there's someone in your household who's applying for COVID-19, you don't send them to school. And it's very important that if you think there are problems, that you get them tested. So everyone has a part to play in this equation. And if we are all collaboratively working together, we can maintain what I think is a relatively safe environment here in Fairfield County. And so I appeal to everyone to exercise as much judgment and responsibility as is possible.
Mr. Miller, I have a question for Dr. Green. My question is, with the chart, with the numbers and everything, is that something that you have put on Parent Square to make others aware of the numbers that we have for the COVID situation?
No, yeah, it's a very good question, Mr. Davis. Yeah, we've not put the numbers on Parent Square relative to COVID data school by school. You know, that's something that we obviously can do. I'll be honest with you, I was a little apprehensive even today with presenting school level data. Part of the reason DHEC didn't present school level data, if it's under 5, is because they don't want people to have their privacy potentially compromised. Because less than 5, then people begin to, I know it's Ms. Green, I know it's Ms. Miller, you know what I mean? So I am a little apprehensive about putting some of that number on Parent Square. But there is some information that we could share with parents. I'll be happy to look at what I think is appropriate in that regard. But those are some of the concerns about putting any school level data, be it students or staff, if it's a small number, because people begin to be able to determine who that person may be, even sometimes wrongly identify who that person may be. But that's the anchor point.
Any more questions for Dr. Green? We're gonna move on to curriculum and instructions. We don't have anything for that. Okay. We're gonna move on to operation and finance. Mr. Robinson.
Good evening to the Board of Trustees, Dr. Green. Under Operations and Finance this evening, you have the finance report for the month of December for board review. Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
now I know that this year's a wash with step raise, right? They're not getting it this year.
No, that's not, yeah. So Ms. Harrison, initially, as a matter of fact, that question came up when I was having a fireside chat. Someone asked, do I think we'll get the step rate retroactive? I said, well, all my contacts at the General Assembly said that's not gonna happen. Well, that shows how much I know, because right after I said that, there was a push with some House and Senate members to pay the step increase even retroactively. And the House Education Committee is deliberating that, I think, beginning tomorrow. So where at one time they said it was not going to happen, now the winds have shifted, and the General Assembly is indicating that they are making plans to potentially give the step increase.
Well, I really hope that they do that. I really hope. Thank you, Mr. Rowe.
People gonna be happy if that happens. Yeah. You know, but they deserve it too. Mr. Robinson, right there.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Mr. Robinson, I have a question for you and Dr. Green. With the bonus, I know we had decided that we're gonna split it in 2 parts. Some of the concerns were, I know we give it in December. Could we possibly give it in November? There's a lot of faculty and staff, they do their shopping for Christmas around that time. That's something that we can look into.
Yeah, that's very good point, Mr. Davis. Matter of fact, I was at Kelly Miller Elementary School. One of the cafeteria workers told me, said, Superintendent Green, we need to get that bonus before Black Friday. You know what? I didn't think about that. So you know what? I'm gonna work on that. So you must have talked to the same cafeteria worker, Mr. Davis, because you came with the same proposal. I think it's a very good idea. And so we and Mr. Robinson talked about how we can structure that way we can get it in November instead of December. I think that's a good recommendation.
Sounds good.
I even told the cafeteria worker, I said, you make sure you remind me before we get there. She said, you can rest assured, I'm gonna make sure you know.
That's all I have.
Do you have any, anybody, have any questions for Mr. Robinson? Thank you, Mr. Robinson, as always. Okay, we're gonna move down to HR, certified recommendation. No, termination, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Tonight, under HR item 1, the superintendent recommends the board approve certified resignations and terminations. This is presented to you in exhibits 1A and 1B.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendation to approve certified resignation and terminations in exhibit 1A and 1B.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by the first, motion made by Ms. Harris, second by Mr. Davis. All in favor, show sign, and raise your hand, right hand. We have a 7-0.
Next,
Thank
Mr. Chairman, under HR item number 2, the superintendent recommends the board approve certified staff members for academic year 2021-22. This is presented in exhibits 2A and 2B.
We have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve certified staff members for academic year 2021-22, exhibit 2A, 2B.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Can we get a second?
I second.
Motion by Ms. Harris, second by Mr. Davis. All in favor, show raise your right hand. We have a 7 vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next vote is our board chair report. Just wanted to, just say 3 things. I did see something, I was asking Mrs. Brown about, the ethics. Mission, did we receive any letters? You already did, so Ms. Harris already did it, but I know it has to be. Would you elaborate a little bit on that, Ms. Brown?
The South Carolina State Ethics Commission, will ask school board members to file, by the deadline. The deadline is typically in March. If you do not pay, or file your paperwork, you will be fined. I believe our new board members have already taken care of theirs. We have not received an official letter or email yet from the state that normally reminds us of that, but I just know from just prior years, it is typically the deadline is in March. So I will be on the lookout for that. You also can go to their website. I'll send that link out. You can put your name in and they'll tell you what you need to do. I'm thinking they may have moved to an online process because we're trying not to deal with a whole lot of paper. So they may have even emailed it to you this year. So check your spam file. So I will follow up on that on tomorrow, just to make sure. But we have not received anything in paper form this year, but the deadline is March 31st of the year.
And how much is that fund? I knew we had a few board members that had paid this. That's why.
Don't let it sneak up on you.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Oh, wow. Dr. Green, would you elaborate a little bit on the STEM, school graduation course, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Miller. Those of you know that just last year we graduated our 3rd cohort of STEM Early College Academy students. I think there were 21 students, if my memory serves me correctly, in that cohort. Unfortunately, they couldn't participate in the commencement exercise because of COVID-19. But then they had a virtual commencement exercise at the end of the spring of the year. All right. And so we're so excited to celebrate their success, even though it's a little late and those students are already in college. But nonetheless, we celebrate their outstanding work. Many of them graduated with honors, even as high school students. So congratulations to STEM cohort 3 for an outstanding job.
Thank you, Dr. Green. I just wanted to say that, our doctor was a blessing in disguise when you initiated and brought this to Fairfield County, and I must say that at one time, because I've been here for 15 years. At one time, we were looked down upon. But now, you know, this virtual pandemic right now, as we say, but before then, the Lexingtons, I'm just gonna call it the Richland, all the Greenville were coming here to Fairfield County to find out what we were doing instead of we going there. So we got a beacon. We were looking upon as a beacon. Y'all excuse me, I'm putting that under the ground. But nevertheless. That thing went off and I got my truck. But being fixed, and that's what it is, but I'm not gonna.
Good.
Nevertheless. So anyway, I put it on the ground. This time, a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to, thank Catering and Beyond for the meal that they provided for us.
Who's that?
Catering and Beyond, Mr. Green, they provided a meal for us,
Yes, ma'am.
and I wanted to thank him.
I don't know what company.
You do know Mr. Green, Eddie.
Oh, Eddie.
Yeah.
You got to say Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, they don't know who Eddie is.
Y'all don't know who Eddie is?
No, they don't.
Oh, Eddie can cook. Eddie can cook.
I just want to thank
Thank
him.
you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Right, I didn't know who, but I know it smells good. And I really appreciate you staff and getting this ready for us, because I am hungry. I'm telling you, I'm hungry. My stomach growling up here. It's pretty good. It won't eat me. Anyway, we hope that Dr. Green, as well as Mr. Brown and staff, can join us if y'all would. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
Good.
There you go, sister.
Oh, okay.
You can just put it on my laptop.